Welcome to the Big Me Kickoff. I am your host, Kevin Noon, 1 o'clock on Friday, February 16th. Happy Cleveland Day, 216, 216. So it's the Big Me Kickoff, presented in part by our friends over at No Naturals. I'll have a little bit more on No Naturals in a second. Second live show this week. We went live on Wednesday or Thursday. I don't even remember which day. We did go live with some of the other news that was going on. Friday is our normal live. Hope everybody is bundled up as snow is going to be hitting much of the Buckeye State coming up here soon. Of course, I am off in about a little less than 24 hours to go cover 2 camps over the weekend, which means that I will get to deal with weather on the drive. But it is what it is. It's, kind of what happens in February. Obviously, Puxatawny Phil, or whatever the hell his name is, did not do me any favors. So, yeah, it's going to be a short winter. No, it'll probably snow into April. We know how it goes. But we'll just kind of go through a couple of things. I'm hoping that this is a shorter show, 30 minutes or so, but we know what happens. People's alerts go off, they come in, all the questions start, the cats are fighting in the background, as I'm sure you can see. And we get to an hour 5, hour 10. I have to go buy the cats food before I leave town because they would not appreciate being left uncared for. They don't have enough to get through the weekend, so that is on my plate of things to do. But if getting high quality edibles for sleep or energy or things like that is on your list of things to do, let me tell you where you can go and do that, and that is at No Naturals. Are you ready for an entirely different edible experience? Welcome to No Naturals, where we're shattering the stereotype of one-note, slow-acting gummies. Forget waiting over an hour to feel the effects. Our gummies are fast, acting in just 15 to 30 minutes. You're not just choosing a flavor, you're choosing your vibe. With 5 core experiences and 6 custom combos, you're in full control. Whether it's energy and focus without the crash, a peaceful slumber that lasts all night, or a game-changing burst of bliss and euphoria, these edibles are the real deal. And the best part, you don't need a doctor's recommendation. No Natural gummies are dispensary quality and discreetly delivered right to your door. So whether you're craving a productivity boost, a good night's sleep, or some blissful euphoria, say hello to No Naturals. Try them today and use code HUDDLE10 for 10% off your order at shop.nonaturals.com. Know your edibles. Know your experience. No Naturals. So there you go. I haven't put the banner up yet. Putting the banner up. The information and the link is going to be in the show notes, but here's all the information below. So there you go. Now that we've taken care of some of our housekeeping, we'll kind of get into what we got going on here. Philly Tuesday, IO, getting ahead of all of the OHs there. Wingman Ted is on board saying, hey, Kevin. Hey to Wingman Ted. Odysseus. James Laurinaitis about to bring back the LBs that we had under Fickle. Well, that certainly would be preferable for the Buckeyes. Tarvos Alford, one of the names out there, certainly that the Buckeyes are recruiting heavily, and I think that Ohio State has a good shot of landing the talented linebacker out of Vero Beach. We've kind of talked about it before. Jim Knowles, probably not the best recruiter on the staff. I'm not going to sit there and say that he's an absolute liability, but he's not going to be James Laurinaitis in terms of the recruiting trail. So it's a good thing to have. Odysseus also saying it'll probably snow until May, which just stop. I'm from SoCal. I hate the snow. And I've lived in Ohio between 2 different stops now. We're closing in on year 28 of living in Ohio. And then I lived for 2 years in New Hampshire, where the weather's even worse. So 30 of my 52 years have been in states that legitimately get snow. I lived in California for 16 years. I lived in Texas for about 5. I lived in Tennessee for about 2. Kind of bounced around a little bit more. I don't even know, but I hate the snow. I hate the snow. Mika Hanna saying, good afternoon, go Bucks. Hello to Mika. Enjoy talking to Mika on private messages over on BuckeyeHuddle.com. And if you're not a member of BuckeyeHuddle.com, why the hell not? Get on board. Sign up for BuckeyeHuddle.com. If you love this show, why not be able to have that type of access, not only to myself, but to Tony Gerdeman, Tom Moore, Mark Givler, our team of experts, Ross Fulton, and everybody all day, all night over at BuckeyeHuddle.com. One of the most, probably the best message board community that I've been involved with. It's certainly not the largest, but it is probably the least insane. And, it's just a good time. So I urge everybody to check us out at BuckeyeHuddle.com. And if you're watching us on YouTube here at youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle, hit that thumbs up, smash it for me. Hit the bell, make sure you subscribe. Don't miss a single episode. Billy Tuesday saying they're too old to play. The female cat, the one that is sort of gray but probably more black now, she's 17. She hates everything. And then the gray cat, he's a year old and he still has a lot of kitten in him and he wants to play. So it's a mess. It's a mess. Let's just keep going here. Wingman Ted, we got an automated cat feeder. It's a game changer. It's a matter of they're out of food. They're just like out of food. I have to go to PetSmart and go buy food. So it's not a matter of that I don't. I mean, we have 3 different food dishes for them. So generally they're not out of food. One of them has kind of got the big cylinder on it because the boy, the 1-year-old, throws a fit if he doesn't have food. Like he will terrorize the room that we've called the cat room. He'll knock over all the toys and everything else because that's who he is. John Alvarez dropping the OH to Billy Tuesday's IO. So now we have completion there. McChickens, give me Woody 69. Kevin Noon, the beast. I had the opportunity to chat a little with McChickens, give me Woody 69 yesterday, and it was an enjoyable conversation. I was in a piss poor mood by the end of it. It had nothing to do with the company I was keeping in talking to McChickens, but he found a couple of hot button issues that still boil my blood about really bad people. Really, really, really bad people. Yeah. I'll kind of leave it at that. Mika, so what are we doing? So are we done looking for LJ's successor? I think you're always looking. And if you can bring in somebody in a kind of coach and waiting role, but LJ just signed a 2-year contract extension. So he's good through the 25 season. So I would say that there's probably not as much urgency in terms of having to get somebody in the employ like immediately. But I think you're not going to be done looking. And the thing that we know about contracts is that sometimes they're not worth the paper that they're printed on. If LJ gets to the end of the year and it's just like, I'm not enjoying this anymore, or Mrs. LJ is like, I'm not enjoying you doing this anymore. I mean, things could change at that moment. The hope is that a 2-year contract puts some of the recruiting fears to rest, though it won't, because the reality is the kids you're recruiting now, the class of 25 kids, LJ is only guaranteed of being there for their first year. So all of these schools are going to keep up doing the same thing. Well, he's not going to be here for your career. And I think that that's just a big ask for anybody to be able to predict the future and be like, I'm going to be here for your entire career. But when you're talking about a coach in his early 70s, I think it becomes a little bit more real because a lot of people have retired by that point. So you kind of have to read into it. So Mika, to your point, yes and no. I think you're still looking. I think that having somebody sitting in an analyst role for 2 years, and I see a super chat just came in. I will get to that here in a second. Having somebody sit in that role, I mean, especially if they're like an actual D-line coach right now, that might be a big ask because in a lot of ways it's like, well, I'm taking a step back in my responsibilities. I'm not getting out to go out and recruit and da. So I think that we go 365 days from now and we kind of see where things are at that point. And it maybe wouldn't surprise me as much if this is revisited going into the 25 season to have that 1 year of transition potentially. He's gonna coach forever. I mean, I think in a lot of regards, I've just come to that realization that he's just gonna coach forever. I mean, he defies age. I would never guess that he was in his early 70s just from talking to him and looking at him and everything else. So I don't know. Let me get to the super chat and then I'll get back to where we are. The best damn pod in the land. Hey, Kev, it's Chad Stryker. Underrated coaching move. Coach Key signed for an extension. I know kids love him. Thoughts? I think that is a big move too. Now, if we're talking about reality, is the tight end coaching position at Ohio State like the most critical, pivotal position on the staff, on the offense? Probably not, just based on what the offense is. But let's not forget that Keenan Bailey was a big reason Ohio State did so well in receiver recruiting before he was elevated to that position. You're always going to have somebody who is under the radar, underreported on, or whatever, that's doing a lot of that work. And it was Keenan Bailey. At that point, there's a coach, Coach Duhart, I think, that has been helping out, in his role, and it has been pivotal helping Tim Walton out. I mean, these guys are very important. Now, the tight end room is going to be as good as the tight end room is going to be. Cade Stover obviously was, much more of a pass catcher than maybe some of his predecessors. You'd have to kind of go back into the Vanette, Hireman type of situation of maybe where you expected the ball to go to the tight end a little bit more. I mean, maybe even some with Marcus Baugh. I mean, don't forget that he had the game-winning touchdown against Penn State in Columbus the year that JT Barrett went off in the fourth quarter, bringing the Buckeyes back from a significant deficit to win the game. But you know what's going to make Coach Key look better? If Jelani Thurman pans out, what's Will Kazmarek, the tight end transfer from OU, going to look like? I mean, you could be the best coach in the world, but if you don't have the dudes, that's problematic. He's got some dudes, and I think that when you look at the incoming kids as well, you look at Max LeBlanc and you look at Demarion Witten, he's got more dudes. So I think all of that's going to be important. But I think it's a big hire. Again, this is not a situation of where Ohio State is putting coaching ahead of recruiting. We know Keenan Bailey can recruit. He can recruit like a demon. And we know he's a pretty good coach so far. So I think that's pretty important. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. John Alvarez, time for the linebackers to step up. Yeah, I think, it is time for the linebackers to step up. Certainly when you're going against more run-heavy teams, we need to see more there. We need to see maybe some improvements when you get a linebacker matched up against a tight end. I'm not going to sit there and say that the linebacker play was bad last year. I don't think Steel Chambers I think his 23 was not as good as his 22. Get your damn tail out of my face. We'll see what Cody Simon, and whether it's Sonny Styles, whether it's CJ Hicks, whether it's Gabe Powers, what linebacker looks like this year. I don't know, but I mean, something that we do know is that the secondary is going to be in fuego, and and everything helps. I mean, it's like if you have one unit that is just playing out of their minds, it's going to trickle down to everybody else, and it's not necessarily saying, well, they're going to play better, but the game is going to work better for them. If you've got a secondary that locks down everybody out there in running pass routes, your front seven is going to benefit because of quote unquote coverage sacks and things of that nature. So it's going to make the linebackers look better because of that. With Ohio State returning most of its defensive line, I think that's going to work well too, because you have the secondary doing its thing. You're going to have the defensive line doing its thing. I don't think that the linebackers are necessarily going to be a weak point, but let's also remember too that it's not as if Jim Knowles is not a good linebacker coach. I mean, I know everybody's really excited about James Laurinaitis, and William Wallace is going to shoot fireballs out of his arse and everything else, but it look at it as it is a huge win on the recruiting trail, and I think that it does free up Jim Knowles a little bit more to be the mad scientist in scheming up the defense and working with different groups on different things. But I don't know if I'm going to say that James Laurinaitis is going to come in and find 35% more potential out of his players. I don't know if that feels like a wildly, unserious comment for me to make. I mean, because I don't think that that's going to be the case. And remember, too, we're dealing with different backers this year than we saw last year. So if Cody Simon and TBD play out of their minds, I think there will be this belief that, well, James Laurinaitis, he solved the enigma. He cracked the code. Well, it's different people too. It's different people too. So we'll see. Jordan Kapler, I can't wait to play the new NC2A game. I'm going to make Tom Moore the head coach of Iowa and then punt inside the 40, no matter what down, just to make him mad. I'm here for it. I will make sure that I give you a way to upload to our Twitch or however we're going to do that. We have big plans for what we're going to do with the NC2A game here at Buckeye Huddle. I actually dusted off the PS5 last night and played a little Call of Duty single player. I don't need to get pwned. I don't even know if that's a term that the kids use these days. I don't need to get pwned by some 11-year-old talking smack to me in the headset. So I just did a little single player, had a little fun with it. Played for about an hour, and then I was like, well, that's about it. I mean, it was a mindless game that I could just run around and shoot and do whatever. And I'm really looking for the NC2A game, as is Mika Hanna as well. Let me know in the comments, PS5 or Xbox. And I'm going to take PC gaming off the table because I don't know if this game is coming out in its first iteration on PC or not. I've never been a computer gamer. I think I switched to Mac about 12 years ago from PC, maybe even a little longer than that. And, everybody's like, well, now you can't game. I'm like, well, I wasn't gaming on the computer anyways. I mean, I may have had like Sim City on there or something. I mean, Sim City, not the Sims. I mean, that's how long ago we're talking about. But PS5 or Xbox, what is the move out there? I did a Twitter poll, got almost 230 replies, and it was about 50% PS5, like 40% Xbox, and 10% I don't game. So it'll be interesting to see there. The best damn pod in the land. Hey, everyone, I love these Friday afternoon shows with Kevin. I was actually concerned that I wasn't going to get to do one today because I thought that I was heading to the first camp today. I didn't know if the camps were Saturday, Monday, but they're actually Sunday, Monday. So Saturday will be a travel day. So I'm home. So that's why if you've watched the shows this week, I'm like, well, I'll probably go live on Thursday as my third show. And then when I finally got, clarification from Mark Gibler that we weren't leaving until Saturday morning, I'm like, well, why do now what I can put off? So I put it off to today. Again, I have got to get better about promoting these shows. Not hitting a big number right now. That's fine. There's news going on, but there's not a ton of news going on. So, if Ohio State were still in the midst of signing portal kids, yes. If we were at the end of a recruiting cycle, yes. If spring football had started, yes. But, we're kind of in, February and July to me are the two most difficult months to run and work on a website covering collegiate sports. February, the games are done. Spring ball doesn't start till March. Recruiting is done, especially with the early window. With the early window, recruiting is really done in December largely, especially if you're Ohio State. And no offense to Dominic Kirks, who signed February, but Ohio State normally doesn't sign anybody in that second window. And then July is just tough because at the end of July, you have Big Ten Media Days. You're getting right up against when fall practice starts, generally really in August. And I just think with the dog days of summer and everything else, it can be a difficult sell at that point. But good news is we're more than 2 weeks into February. We know when spring practice starts. I think it's the 5th of March. We've almost made it, and I'm going to be here with you 52 weeks a year. Now, if I go on vacation or something, I may have to tape a couple shows. I may give one up at some point just due to travel. I don't have a vacation on the books this year. But for now, certainly, especially since I have this partnership with No Naturals, and I promised them 3 shows a week. So, just it's like the football telecast. You have advertisers, you got to make good. Damn these 4-minute commercial breaks. Well, I've got my 45-second commercial I've got to drop in. So, you're going to have me. So we will get through all of this. Not every show is always going to be super focused on an Ohio State topic, but the good news is you guys create the rundown with your questions. I know I've gotten off on a very long tangent. I'm probably woefully behind. I'm 15 minutes behind on my comments right now, and we'll play catch up and we'll get there. I already know we're going to go longer than 30 minutes. As long as I can get to PetSmart before it starts snowing, that's all that matters. Let's keep going here. Let me keep looking. Odysseus, Tom would coach Navy and annoyingly run the same play that works again and again. When I played the game, I legitimately ran 3 offensive plays and 5 offensive plays and 3 defenses. Not like, oh, I ran 4-3, 3-4 and nickel. No, I ran 3 calls, and one of them was a goal line. And I ran about 5 plays, and I would run maybe for about 60 yards a game. I just threw and threw and threw, and everybody's going to have fond memories of what a great player they were at this game or that game, as do I. I was very good at it. Now I'm probably going to need a month to train because I haven't even played Madden in 10 years, probably more, to be honest, because I didn't like the Madden game engine as much as the college football game engine was so much better. It was a lot easier to have a balanced offense. But I didn't need to run. I didn't really want to run unless it was like 3rd and short, 4th and short. And a lot of times there I would play action and still throw. So that's the way that I would play it. But I'm looking forward to that. Mika Hanna saying hi to Chad. Let me keep going through here. Mark Fetters saying hello. The best damn pod in the land. No, I'm not giving the cats any of the gummies, mostly because I don't want to share them. But largely, that would be messed up. I would call the ASPCA on me if I ever did that. So no, I cannot give them the gummies. But they do have like the wallflowers that put out the scent all the time. They do have ones that have certain cat pheromone things in there to calm them down. And I've thought about maybe getting one, and then I haven't. So we'll see. Let's just keep going. Let's just keep going on here. Wingman Ted. I'm still on the bandwagon of waiting for Cam Hayward to be LJ's successor once he's done with his Hall of Fame NFL career. Cam Hayward's got a lot of money in the bank. That's not to say that a lot of other coaches don't. But why would Cam want to do all of that? I mean, he's beating the hell out of his body playing in the league for 11 million years. I mean, he may want to go sit on a beach for a while. I don't know. But it is a nice thought, but I don't get too caught up in all of the coaches should be former players of their, alma mater. I mean, it doesn't always work out. And again, I'm making Wingman Ted's comment a lot more serious than Wingman Ted is making it. But I do suffer some fatigue when I have people who just list off 20 coaches of, former players and like, well, they played here, so therefore it would work. Will it? I don't know. Damon Jordan, they should already be gone like the basketball little corporate guy. Those coaches that stay around and not win are the bad people. What? They should already be gone like the basketball little corporate guy. Those coaches that stay around and not win are the bad people. Ryan Day has won a lot of games. No, he's not won a natty, but Ohio State doesn't have 30 natties. The last 3 years, the team has underperformed. 23, 22, 21. 20, they went to the national championship game. And we're put in an impossible situation because the Big Ten tested for COVID and the SEC didn't. And Alabama wasn't missing anybody. And Ohio State was missing a lot of people. And then Trey Sermon got hurt like on the first offensive play. And even if you take all of that stuff away, Alabama was still probably 14 points better than Ohio State. And then the first couple years, Ohio State won plenty as well. I mean, the one year they coulda, woulda, shoulda beat Clemson. And then obviously in 20, they did beat Clemson to get to the championship game. So I'm not exactly jiving with what you're selling there. So sorry. Mika Hanna, does Amaris Williams transfer to us? No, I'm sure he's already bought into where he's at right now. But then again, you never know with the portal how things are going to go. But once again, the situation is that there's still going to be schools saying, what, you're considering transferring to Ohio State? You know, Larry Johnson's not going to be there. So nothing really changes with that. Hummus Hero saw that Keon Sabb is in the transfer portal for Michigan. That is true. Keep an eye on Oklahoma is one of the schools there. Oklahoma just offered his little brother. Brent Venables was really in on Sabb out of high school. I'm sure there are going to be other schools, but that is kind of the first legitimate transfer of somebody that was meaningful. I guess there were some other names, but Sabb was really kind of like, he wasn't a starter, but he was a major contributor. So that one's going to hurt them, I think. Let me keep going here. John Alvarez thinks that Thurman has to play now. He's going to see playing time, but is that based on the talent you see with him, your fear that he may transfer if he doesn't get the PT? Why does he have to play now? He certainly looks the part. But you also have G. Scott Jr. ahead of him. You got Kasmerick ahead of him. You've got to, I'm sure there are people that are like, well, they got to play. So I don't know. I don't know anybody that has to play now. Now, the thing that people that aren't necessarily having an opportunity to contribute a lot, the good news is they have a fresh set of eyes on them on the offensive side with Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly could come in here. Well, he is here, but he could come into spring and look at him and like, why the hell haven't you been playing him? And things could change in a hurry. And that's the reason why a lot of kids, when a coaching change happens, get out of Dodge because they don't know when the new coach comes in if they're going to have most favored nation status. Coach could come in and see somebody and it's like, you got it. You will. Who the hell are you? So, I don't know. Let me just keep scrolling here. Billy Tuesday, more on Thurman, looked like a potential beast in the little we saw. He needs to call a first down when he actually has a first down. And that's kind of a quote of, a paraphrase quote from Ryan Day. Again, I see him walking around, practice. I mean, after practice when we're doing interviews, saw him at like the camps last year. And every time I'm like, damn, that is an impressive looking athlete. The skills are there. I mean, it's just a matter of the game slowing down and everything else. But with Air Noland, a former high school teammate of his being at Ohio State too. I mean, he's got another, another friend of some consequence here. I don't see Jelani up and leaving just because he plays in 7 games this year or whatever. Larry asking if I think G. Scott Jr. is underachieved. I think that part of the issue is, remember, he came in as a receiver, really couldn't crack the rotation, which isn't saying much because it's difficult to crack that receiver rotation. Moves to tight end, has to basically learn tight end. And everyone's like, well, what? You run around and you catch balls. I mean, there's so much, a lot of different stuff for tight end. If I were asked to grade him, I would still have an eye for incomplete. Do I think that he's going to be a 40 reception type of tight end? I don't think so, but I think a lot of that too is based on how Ohio State's offense is set up, who's at receiver this year, who's at running back. I mean, you only get so many offensive plays, and everybody wants to see this player do this and that player do that. And if let's just say you get 100 plays, which is way too many, people will total up like 184, players that touch the ball or whatever, and the math doesn't work. So something's got to give. Honestly, G. Scott and Kasmerick and Thurman and the rest of the tight end room, get out there, do your blocking, be a escape valve for Will Howard. And if you make some big plays, great. But the tight end is not a focal point of the offense. I'm not throwing it to Jeremiah Smith, Brandon Ennis, Carnell Tate, Emeka Ibuka, et cetera, Bryson Rogers. I'm not, I'm going to my receivers. That's, if they're open, that's where I'm going with it. So, we'll see. All right, here we go. Back to my question about which system: Wingman Ted, Xbox; Larry, PS5; Kelly O'Day, Xbox; Jordan Kapler, Dreamcast. I still have a Dreamcast. It's in the basement in a trunk, like a Foot Locker. But I have a couple of my old systems still, and I still have my Dreamcast. I got my Dreamcast right around the time I moved away from Ohio. I pre-ordered it at a GameStop or EB Games, or I don't know. I moved to Texas, and let me tell you, it was a damn nightmare getting my pre-order moved from the one store to the other store and getting my unit. I had to wait like 2 weeks. I mean, it was horrible, and I was just waiting to start my contract working with Fox. I didn't really have a lot of money, so I never even really bought that many games for the Dreamcast. So that kind of sucked. But I think down there, I probably still have an 8-bit Nintendo or whatever. The not a Super NES, but the Nintendo Entertainment System, the NES. I think I have a 3DO down there. I think I have a PS3. I gave my PS2 to my niece. Maybe 1 or 2 other game systems. Unfortunately, I watch shows like American Pickers. I don't have anything that somebody's going to come in 30 years and be like, give you like $8,000 for that or whatever. And again, with inflation, maybe $8,000 will be what it costs to get a Happy Meal. Did you hear that in Chicago? A Big Mac meal is $18 at certain locations. $18 for a Big Mac meal. I think it's like 10 here after tax. The one in Pickerington, I think it's like 10, a little less than 10.50. I think it was like 10.31. And maybe that's with supersizing it to like a large Coke, which I don't need a large fry. Let me have a regular fry and a large Coke. That's the combo I want. I don't need the fries. Oh, of course you don't, Kevin. You're fat. I don't need the fries. I'm not a huge French fry guy, but I need the soda. But I digress there. Odysseus has 05, PlayStation. What's going on? Mika asking, what's up with Coach Alfred and Fry? they're obviously still working. Just because they weren't mentioned in the in the press release about rework deals, did they still have time on their deal? I don't have that in front of me. There's no reason to be concerned, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because I'm just saying there's no reason to be concerned. um there's no reason to be concerned. They haven't left. Just because they weren't mentioned doesn't mean anything. It's just, doesn't matter. Uh, are you guys friends with the other guys from other sports sites? I'm friends with people from almost every site in the market. Not all of them. Dramatic pause. You can do the math. But yeah, I certainly do hang out with guys from some of the other sites. I'm not going to be a commercial for other sites, but we're all here trying to make a living. We're all well, the ones I'm talking about, we're all out on, on the road doing, covering games and things of that nature. The guys that travel, I mean, a ton of respect for them because I know how difficult the life can be. I know how difficult it can be. Oh, we got a press conference. Like, we're calling a conference in 2 hours and having to drop everything and do that. You do have people that just sit there and thumb their nose at those of us who work in the media. Fuck them. Um, it's really easy to sit there and talk about that from your living room. Let me see it. Why don't you ask any tough questions of Ryan Day? I think it's because you're chicken. Well, at least I can go and ask questions to him if I want to. All right, let me move on. I wasn't going to go there, but we're there. John Alvarez says Madden sucks. I just never liked it. And I had the sweetest hookup for years. Years. The whole time I worked here in Columbus, the first time around, and the whole time I worked at Fox, I became friends with a PR person at EA Sports. And they would send me every game, every sports game for free. And I would make sure that we would figure out a way to use something from one of the games every so often on one of the shows. There was a year like with like the national championship game was going to be on while our show was going to be on, and I simmed the game, and, and I had the anchor go out. There's like, we don't know how the game's going to turn out, but we ran our own simulation, and here's some highlights. Thanks to EA Sports. So that was the greatest hookup I've ever had. And if EA Sports is watching this now and they want to continue that deal or sponsor the show or sponsor the site, I'm all for it because that was great. Let me keep scrolling. Steve Buckholtz, hey Kev, where can I get some good edibles? Funny you should ask. NoNaturals.com. Shop.nonaturals.com. Use code Huddle10 for 10% off your order. Delivered discreetly right to your door. So check them out at nonaturals.com. I did not have one last night. I just had a lot of vodka last night. I got riled up in a conversation and I'm like, well, I got to drink now. And the reality is that I try not to gummy every night. It's not a oh, I'm going to become addicted to it. It's no, I'm going to get used to them. And then maybe I'm going to need higher dosages. So I try to be mindful of that. Let me send a text message back to somebody who wants to record. 3:30. All right, there we go. Let me scroll back and see where we are. Steve wants to say, can you touch base on James Peoples? Once you enroll at Ohio State, and I assume he was an early enrollee, we can't talk to them on our own. We are hoping to get to the early enrollees in the next week or two. Normally, we get the early enrollees. We have not as of yet, but we'll see. If he's not an early enrollee, then yeah, I'll reach out to him. But there are rules in place, and once you're on campus, once you started your clock, we're not supposed to reach out to the players directly. We're supposed to go through sports information. And if I went to sports information, it's like, hey, I want to talk to James Peoples, like one on one, the answer would be no. And I would say, why? They're like, because then I'd have to make them available to everybody. So we'll work on it. We'll work on it, but we've not gotten any of the early enrollees. We did get the transfers minus Julian Sayin a couple weeks ago. The hope is that we will be getting Chip Kelly and Matt Guerrieri and James Laurinaitis in the next couple weeks as well. Now that the roster of coaches is filled out, that is certainly on the list, and we'll see what else. I mean, sports information is trying to help us and provide us with interviews so we can provide content. The closer we get to spring football, things, then we'll start getting Ryan Day more periodically, assistant coaches, and probably some players. The way that they used to work all of that was that we would get like one position a day. I think they're getting away from that this year, but I don't remember what the conversation was of how they're going to handle that. Frank Carone says hello. Hello to my friend Frank. Mika Hanna asking about Jamie French. I think that Ohio State has a really good shot there. I'm not going to say thumbs up or thumbs down. There's a lot of time to go. I mean, there's not a lot of kids I'm going to go right out and say, oh yeah, they're getting him. No, there are kids like that. I mean, and a lot of them are already in the class. But a lot of this other stuff, we'll just have to see. Jordan Kapler says that he'll take the Dreamcast off my hands. Money talks, BS walks. I don't know if I could find all the pieces, to be honest. I mean, I just know I have it in there. My wife's like, why do you have so much crap? You're a hoarder. Like, well, I just have to have some stuff there. Just seeing what buzzed on my phone. Nothing important. Troy V still has his Atari 2600. I don't know if I'm going to read the rest of it. I've looked at some of those like emulator systems and like maybe I'll get that. And like I have a hard enough time finding time to sit down and play my PlayStation. Like the last thing in the world I need is a yet another system to not use. But then again, I've also said, well, maybe if I put one of those like in the bedroom or whatever, and I could sit there and play a little bit like in the morning as I'm waking up. But I don't think my wife would be too thrilled about that. David Greenshield, Kevin, what's the ceiling for OSU basketball? What are the chances of returning to the success of the Mata era? I mean, Ohio State could win a national championship at some point. Ohio State's never really going to be a basketball school. I don't see a run of where Ohio State is in like the Final Four, like 3 or 4 years or anything like that. Then again, if you're going to do that, it's going to be in a run like that because of maybe what your team is. But then again, too, you sit there and you make one, and anybody who has an NBA decision is like, see ya. Everybody remembers the successes of the Mata era. I also remember when Ohio State was down bad. And it does appear that Thad Matta has bounced back. I mean, he's feeling healthy. Everything's going well for him at Butler. I mean, I think the expectation is that you need to make the tournament every year. And Ohio State was making the tournament every year under Holtman. The first 2 years, Ohio State made the tournament both years. 2020, Ohio State was going to be a 4 or 5 seed or something like that. And then things kind of fell apart. So, the ceiling, maybe, make the tournament every year is, I think, is an expectation. Making the Final Four every couple years. You have the right team. Maybe you go nuts. I mean, Ohio State has not won a natty in basketball in a long, long time. And basketball has the unfortunate proximity to Ohio State football. So the belief is that Ohio State should be winning national championships, and that's just probably not going to be the case. I know I don't sound like a recruiting poster for men's basketball, but there are a lot of schools out there that are basketball primarily schools. I put a lot more into their basketball efforts than Ohio State's going to be able to. Now, could Ohio State get to a point of where it's like Texas? Texas has had some runs of where it's been pretty solid in both sports. I think maybe that's what you're kind of hoping for. For a hot minute up north, they were pretty good at basketball. But even with that, I don't know. I urge, not everybody's local, so it's not like, if you live in I don't know, Wichita, Kansas, you're probably not coming out to a bunch of Ohio State basketball games. But if you want to see Ohio State basketball be successful, then go out and support the team and go to games and support cohesion, the basketball NIL, and do things like that. And that's not directed to David or to Jordan or to Billy or to Mika or any. That's just in general. Go out and support basketball. Let's not forget that sorry, had a little sneeze there. There was a moment where people were ready to run Kevin McGuff out of town. Now the women's team is number 2 in the nation. Fortunes change. Unfortunately, they did not change for Chris Holtmann down the stretch. And one of the best comments I read there from one of the national guys is something along the lines of, it's a weird intersection where everybody truly believes that Chris Holtmann is genuinely a really good dude, and it was also the right time to move on from him. I really like Chris Holtmann. There were, and I don't want to kind of get back to my last show, but, there certainly were some recruiting questions I had, some philosophy questions I had. There were, a couple of the games that Ohio State had a chance to win it at the end. The ball wasn't in Bruce Thornton's hands or whatever. It was nowhere close to Bruce Thornton. Questions that cost Ohio State potential wins and ultimately cost Chris Holtmann his job. And I'm not convinced that, if they win those 2 games or whatever, that it really changes the outcome. Maybe it changes the timing. But Chris Holtmann has got a nice buyout on his deal. He's not gonna miss any meals. Wife and daughter are gonna be just fine, and he'll go and land another job. It was just sad to see that it didn't work out for him because he genuinely was a really good guy. Let me keep scrolling here. Steve Buckholz saying Chris Gent for basketball head coach. Did you watch the other show where I basically took that idea apart? Because I am not. Why? What is that? If you're a 16, 17-year-old basketball player, you don't even know who the hell Chris Gent is. You don't. He's not a head coach right now. He's probably somewhere between 51 and 53 because we had classes together. We were about the same. We're about the same age. So his career ended before these kids were born. It's not the right move. It is not the right move. We keep scrolling here. I'm gonna have this long pause on the waveform. I should keep talking so I don't have these long pauses that are there. I'm just going to keep talking. All right, we're kind of caught up, and I skipped over a lot of things, and that's fine. I'm sorry, but it's producing and hosting is just a lot that's going on there. Trying to think of anything else that is going on right now. I know there are a lot of people who are saying that they're not big soccer fans. The Columbus Crew just unveiled their new kit. It looks like Charlie Brown's shirt. I'm not sure how that happened. I'm not really much of a soccer fan myself, but I also know better than to be critical of the Crew, because Crew fans are very passionate and they will let you know. So I have given up making jokes about the Crew for Lent. How about that? Bucknuts and 247 podcast like the idea of Christian coming to coach. I don't. And I like Chris. We had classes together. Why? Why? What does it serve? What does it serve? Again, it's he played at Ohio State, so therefore he must be, he gets it. I mean, if you're going out and hiring people that don't get it, then you need to get gone. But you don't have to be at your alma mater for stuff to work out. That's just, it's not there. Steve says that he's pure Buckeye. What does that have to do with the price of tea in China? How is that? How is that going to equate to a win on the recruiting trail? You're recruiting against Tom Izzo. You're recruiting against Micah Shrewsbury at Notre Dame, and you're recruiting against, I'm not even going to put them up against Kentucky or Duke or whatever, and Matt Painter at Purdue for a kid. Those three coaches, maybe Shrewsbury to a little bit of a lesser extent, but you're recruiting against Izzo and Painter with a coach that, yes, in the early 90s had himself a nice career with the Buckeyes, won a ring with the Rockets, is an assistant coach in the league right now. It is not a splash hire. It is not a splash hire at all. And a lot of people were upset that Ohio State went and, brought in a mid-major coach in Chris Holtman. I mean, I guess, coming out of the league is more of a splash than maybe a mid-major coach, but where's the track record to show anything? The record, and it's more than just recruiting or drawing up plays. There's so much in head coaching. So, I don't know. I don't like the idea. One iota. It doesn't make sense. So I don't know. Let me keep going through here. Mika's got my back, so she may have to protect me from Steve, because I think Steve really likes his idea. I just don't, and that's fine. We all get along here, even if we disagree on something. We all get along here. I don't like the idea whatsoever. PB says Earl Bruce was a true Buckeye too. Yeah, rest in peace, Earl. I don't want to really say anything bad about the man, but it doesn't necessarily predict success or anything. And you're dealing with an Ohio State program that has been recruiting okay, but woefully underperforming. I think if there's ever a time to make a splash hire, it's now. And unless unless you know something that I don't about it, John Alvarez, Lamont Paris, or Oates, I think Oates is a pipe dream in terms of Nate Oates at Alabama. Not that I look at Alabama, I'm like, ooh, that is a basketball school. But I don't know what Ohio State is going to be able to do to sit there and say, you've got things running pretty well there, but come over, start over here. I've seen people mention Will Wade. No, thank you. No, thank you. The fact that Will Wade doesn't have a like 500-year show cause blows my mind. And he's at McNeese State, former head coach at LSU. The fact that he doesn't have a 500-year show cause blows my mind. Rick S. bringing up Dusty May as well, who's 47. I think that, yeah, you don't want to be making, constant changes. I wasn't talking about Chris Gent's age as a deterrent. I was talking about Chris Gent's age as these kids have no idea who he is. They don't. Yeah, maybe some kid out of Pickerington, maybe Devin Royal would have known who he was, from going through and reading about Ohio State's history or whatever. But there's no reason any of these other kids are going to know a darn thing about him. So I don't know. Let me see what else is going on here. Chris says Seth Miller from UC. He may not want to leave because they're in the Big 12, and the Big 12 is a tremendous basketball league with its expansion. I know that I've seen Mick Cronin's name mentioned at UCLA. Cronin coaches his ass off. I don't know if I see the fit on that one. I've seen Sean Miller's name mentioned. Greg McDermott, his name was mentioned the first time around when Holtman was hired. I'm not a huge McDermott fan. I don't know how well it translates up, and I'm not saying that he's playing, that he's coaching Sisters of the Blind and Poor, but I don't know how well that one is going to translate. Jordan Capper, what should I cook for my family this weekend? Lasagna. Always lasagna. Troy V says food. No. Obviously food. Mika says that she has my back. Odysseus says NBA plays no defense today, scores in the 130s. Yeah, but I think a lot of that too is just you've got the players are really good and everybody wants to score points. So everybody's cheating to get back on offense, and and the way games are called and everything else. It's not me having an issue with the NBA game. I don't watch the NBA. I don't like the NBA. I just don't. But it's, you fall off the wagon and it's hard to get back on the wagon. I don't know who anybody is on any of the teams. I don't follow European basketball. I don't know who these kids are coming up through the FIBA ranks and everything else. And I don't care anymore. I had a blast watching in the 80s and in the 90s. That's kind of about it. I mean, I think the last NBA game I watched in full was Kobe Bryant's last game. That's how long it's been since I've watched a full NBA game. I don't care. I just can't get into it. I love college basketball. I love the NBA draft. But then I'm done. That's just kind of where I go with it. Wingman Ted, something about no natural gummies and Doritos. That must be what to cook. There you go. I don't know how old, if they're kids, I mean, we should probably make sure that they're of a legal age before having any no natural gummies. The Doritos, yes, as long as it's not Cool Ranch. Cool Ranch are so overrated. So overrated. RM wants to know who my dream candidate for basketball coach is. I don't know yet. I don't know. I don't know who my dream coach is. Another name that I would sit there and say that I'd keep an eye on is Buzz Williams out of Texas A&M, just because of Ross Bjork's familiarity with him. It's not as if Buzz Williams is an A&M alum and served in the Corps and everything else, the Corps of Cadets there. I think that Ohio State would be able to get him to move. I don't know if he's the right fit. I don't know. I mean, I liked him prior to A&M. Oh, and then another name that I've seen people throw out is Kevin Beard. No. Ohio State does not need to bring on a coach with a lot of baggage. So, no. Kevin, are you surprised James didn't have to cut his teeth at lower level before taking the position at OSU? I mean, Brian Hartline didn't have to cut his teeth, really. I mean, he spent a couple of years as like an analyst, QC guy. James has spent 2 years, a year at Ohio State and a year at Notre Dame as a grad assistant. I don't think that you want to sit there in that instance and be like, okay, we're going to go and place you at Akron for 2 years, and then we'll come calling. You let him off the ranch, and he may not come back. So you take your swings there, and you see what you get. It's kind of where we are. I mean, you're going to have your mixture of former players and, guys that just have really been, coaches for their whole professional careers and so on and so forth. So no, I don't really. John Alvarez feels that college basketball is unwatchable. I've watched a lot less this year, like a lot less. I've just been really impatient this year. I've not had any patience for anything or anybody. So I just haven't watched much. But what is not as much, I probably watch 3 games a week. I used to probably watch 10. So that is a lot less. Steve misses Magic and Larry. That was my heyday. Moved from Southern California to Boston, essentially New Hampshire, but like 30 minutes out of Boston during the rivalry. And I grew up as a Lakers fan. And let me tell you that nobody there took too kindly to that. So, yeah. Let me keep going here. John says, how about Bob Huggins? I think Huggy Bear is done. Let me keep going. All right. I think we are caught up once again. We're a little over an hour, so let me re-welcome anybody who's gotten here late. You're watching the Big Me Kickoff. I am your host, Kevin Noon. Friday, February 16th, Cleveland Day, 216, February 16th. Big Me Kickoff brought to you in part by our friends at No Naturals. You can check out all their information on the scroll in the show notes. Shop.nonaturals.com. Use code HUDDLE10 to get 10% off of your order delivered directly and discreetly to your door. I use the products. I cannot recommend them highly enough. So we'll start to decelerate our way out because, as I said, I've got to run to PetSmart and go get cat food. I'm not going to go out and buy an automated cat feeder because here's the thing. I think the cat would freak out, the male cat, the 1-year-old. He's been both of our cats have been able to just feed when they want to. He's getting a little pudgy. And as I said, he throws a temper tantrum when he doesn't have food down. So I think if we tried to dictate when he could and he couldn't eat, he would have a fit. And nobody wants that. Wingman Ted, Harbaugh gone, Stallions gone, Partridge gone, Minter gone, Elston gone, Herbert gone, Clinkscale gone, Harbaugh gone, Chef gone. Any other names going to be on this list? I think that the coaches that are leaving have left largely. I don't know. I can't say that I have followed every twist and turn with their coaching staff. I mean, I know now they're starting to hire guys. They got the linebacker coach from Tennessee. They went and got like somebody who worked alongside Mentor to be the new DB coach. That one just kind of came out today. Where was he at? Like Louisiana, University of Louisiana. So they're starting to put the staff together, but I don't know if I see anybody else leaving. I mean, I know that people try to talk about Mike Hart looking around or whatever, but honestly, I've not followed it that closely. February is a little early for me to do oppo research on Big Ten teams. I kind of wait to get through spring and then kind of see what that looks like. Record as many of the spring games as I can off of BTN. Mika is mentioning a couple of player names, Keon Sabb and Joey Velasquez. Yeah, they're going to be the players who are departing, but in terms of coaches, that staff has kind of been gutted. Steve Buckholz has two cats, Woody and Brutus. We have Scarlet and Deuce are the two cats that we have. And then the dog's name is Margot, and she is already gone to boarding for the weekend. So I do not have to get up in the middle of a show and let the dog out, which is a good thing. Steve also says that the Michigan AD said that the departure of Harbaugh will not affect the NC2A investigations. Well, I mean, what the hell else is it going to say? I mean, they also were at a point of where they had a gag order on anybody, and they were very uncooperative. So I'm not going to expect them to suddenly become cooperative. I mean, back to Wingman Ted's thing. Who could be, who else could be on the list? Ward Manuel, the AD, even though he was named like the main dude of the CFP committee for I guess it's like a 2-year term. If he gets run, I don't know. I mean, does he keep it and just unaffiliated, or does he have to give up his spot? I don't know. I don't know on that one. Odysseus says Ono, Michigan University President Santa Ono. RM, I have a dog named Perez after Tony Big Doggy Perez. There you go. Yeah, Ono certainly is on perilous ground right now, as is Manuel. And I think the thing is too is that if the NC2A investigation, remember there are multiple investigations. A notice of allegations has already been dropped for it's just a cheeseburger. We haven't seen anything from the NC2A about Connor Stallion's vacuums and sign stealing. If Michigan gets bombed into the Stone Age, I think that you see a major cleaning of house, and since most of the coaches have left, that's going to fall on the AD and the president, especially with Ono completely selling his soul to the devil in this one and blindly backing everything that was going on. I hope his 15 minutes of fame were fun and exciting, because it kind of looks like a joke with all of that. And when the next notice of allegations comes out, what's he going to do? #bet? I mean, come on, man. Wingman Ted, do you know if Michigan has responded to the initial notice of allegations, Cheeseburger Gate, that is? They get 90 days. I tell you, you don't use 30 of them and not use all 90 of them. So no, not yet. I don't remember the date that it went out, and haven't done the math to when 90 days is, but we would have heard about it. There are enough people that are fed stuff in terms of Michigan that it would be out there. Troy V. Stallions on the sidelines at Central Michigan was still one of the oddest stories of the year. Yeah, and strangely enough, it kind of just went away. I think Central is just kind of hoping that they just don't get caught in the collateral damage. Phone ringing, turn that off. Odysseus, whoops, there we go. Hashing Hashing bet makes me wonder if U.S. integrity will find anything on the players and coaches gambling. I don't know what I don't know, and I'll leave it at that. But certainly some allegations. Certainly some allegations of some things that went on there. We're gonna wrap up here. Wingman Ted sounds like another one of Tom Moore's countdowns that needs added to the morning show. The 90 days to respond to the allegations countdown. I'll send him a text once I get off of the show, maybe while I'm waiting in line at PetSmart. I think we kind of have hit it. Everything I wanted to hit here. We got an hour and 10 minutes. Steve Buckhold says, see ya. He could tell. He's watched the show enough to know when I'm starting to decelerate out of the show, which I'm doing right now. I want to thank everybody for watching. We will be back next week. I will probably not be doing a Monday show because I will be at Best of the Midwest in Indianapolis, one of the two camps that I'm covering over the weekend. But be sure to keep it locked in at Buckeye Huddle on youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. Mark Gibler and I will be on the road the next couple of days. I'm sure we will have content on the Skull Session Recruiting Podcast. Easy for you to say. As well as plenty of coverage on the board at BuckeyeHuddle.com for our members. Member-only things behind the dreaded paywall. You know how you can take care of that? By paying. By signing up for Buckeye Huddle, checking it out would mean a ton to myself and the rest of the staff. That is our day job. The podcasts are all well and good, but the website is where it's at. It's where I spend most of my time, and I urge you to do the same over there. Wingman Ted's asking, will I go live from Best of Midwest? No, we will not go live. I mean, a couple of reasons, mostly because I just don't think that we're going to have enough of an internet signal, but also it kind of goes against the spirit of the event to like televise it. And then, and then trying to do something live from there after, I don't know. I mean, maybe we will try to do something, but I think recording is probably the better option. And then on Tuesday, doing another show, maybe I will, either I will appear on Skull Session Recruiting Podcast with Mark, or Mark will appear here on Big Me Kickoff, and we'll kind of go through everything that we've seen. Yeah, cowards. I hear you. I'm afraid of no internet. That's what I'm afraid of. But until next time, I want to thank everybody for watching us here. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe. Don't get caught out in the snow, and I'll talk to you all very soon.